Welcome to the DRF Sports Podcast, brought to you by DRF Sports. America's most trusted name in horse racing is now providing sports bettors with exclusive data, analytics, previews, videos, and expert picks on all major sports. Bet smarter and have more fun doing it. It's the DRF Sports Podcast, and now your host, Sheldon Alexander. Ready, set, bet.
This is the DRF Sports Podcast, episode 31. I'm your host, Sheldon Alexander. And today we've got something super special for you with the NCAA Bowl season almost here. We decided to bring on one of the most informed names in the business to break it all down. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Bowl season gets underway this Friday, and we've got the betting angles cooking right from the get-go, all the way through to the New Year's Six in terms of which games we're looking at to bet on the most. And of course, the semifinals, which we've already seen so much line movement. Don't worry, we're about to break it all down for you with some in-depth analysis and betting strategies. But first, I just need to make sure that you guys have checked out Cash Grab, which is the DRF Sports all-new free-to-play sports prediction game where you can win real money. It's available to every sports fan in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Win real cash prizes every day, as well as a chance to win big money jackpots. All you have to do is download the free DRF Cash Grab app, create an account, and start predicting. Who will win the first quarter? How many touchdowns will Tom Brady score? Answering simple questions like these can end in you making real money. Download the DRF Cash Grab app now and win big. And of course, betting and winning big is the goal, as we have Collin Wilson of the Action Network joining us to go through some of the betting angles, storylines, plus of course the latest on all of the opt-ins and opt-outs and coaching changes, how that might be affecting some of the lines coming up, plus of course our best bets, as mentioned, in the New Year's Six, and of course the national semifinals on the way. So much information and education, as I always like to say, and luckily for y'all, it starts right about now. So bowl season is upon us, and you know that it's big when we're bringing on the big guns here to help us out with our bowl season preview. This is Collin Wilson, sports writer from the Action Network and co-host of the Big Best on Campus and Sources podcast. Collin, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining us here.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited. The bowl season is about to start. It's the craziest time of year. Like, I feel like as college football has taken over the NBA, when you've got opt-outs, coaches, and now, by the way, National, Signing Day is now a free agency event. Kind of like, how when the NBA has that free agency starts up and like at midnight at 12:01, the Woj bombs. Oh, now yeah. College football has the exact same thing. So I couldn't be more excited that it's the best time of year for a college football fan.
I love it. And referencing it to my love, the NBA free agency period. Oh, yeah. I can already tell this conversation is going to be great. And I was already excited for it. And you're making NBA references right off the top for me. Love it. But let's get into this because, as I mentioned, the big guns, and I'm not just saying that, you just became a Heisman voter this year, which has to be kind of like, that's a super big deal. But do they give you rules in terms of like betting on the Heisman, or there are 100 voters? So it's not like you could swing the result or anything like that.
Right.
But it is a super interesting situation these days where betting and journalism, those lines are kind of getting blurred, no?
Yeah. And I mean, it's really interesting when you think about my career is that, there was a media company that just got started up in 2017 called Action Network. And we were the first ones that were going to attack having a integral journalistic approach to looking at a stock market that is all of sports, right? Every vertical we cover. And that's the thing is when I look at Virginia or Boston College or Coastal Carolina, it's a stock for me. It's Pfizer, it's Exxon, it's Apple. And so I think taking that approach, we're starting to get, notoriety, or at least you can depend on us to give you as much information as possible so you can make a great choice. And when I got notified that I was voting for the Heisman, it was kind of like a career goal moment. And I'm still a little shell shocked. And also, like, I've also taken some flack about who my top three votes were within the company. And they were like, before it was released, after it was released, we revealed who our top three were. And I nailed the top three. I I put in Bryce Young, Hutchison, and Kenny Pickett, and then I started getting a bunch of flack from everybody in the company. Like, how could you not get Will Anderson from Alabama up in there? How can you not do that? You only get 3 spots to vote. And I think from a Heisman perspective, you're right. It's just one of 900 votes. But I have to be, I mean, rules wise, I have to be quiet about it. There's probably not going to be a lot of content written from me. You'll hear Brett and I on the Sources podcast talk about who we like for the Heisman, but in no way could we ever say like, this is what we're doing for the Heisman. Right. So.
Yeah, I got you. And especially in a season like this, where it was so chaotic for a lot of the year, where so many names were in the race and then not really, and then we kept moving. So that was definitely super interesting. But another interesting part of this, of what we're going to talk about, is you're an Arkansas alum, correct?
Twice, two-time right? Arkansas alum. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a New Year's Day game. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, if you walk the streets of Fayetteville, every graduate gets their name engraved on the sidewalk. You can find me on there a couple times. You'll find my entire family on there. So there's probably not a better. I've told former coaches before, like I've told Bielema, you're going to be out the door, and I'm still going to be here, buddy. So you go ahead with it. So as Arkansas can be.
So this is big then. A New Year's Day game is the biggest bowl game for the Razorbacks since what? Ryan Mallett are we going towards? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the Sugar Bowl, Ohio State down in New Orleans. That was, I mean, that's the last time we were good, in my opinion. I mean, I know that we made the Texas Bowl with Bielema, but let's face it, making it to a Sugar Bowl, what was then one of the BCS bowls, the New Year's Six is what they're calling it now. That's a really big deal to us. The Cotton Bowl was a staple of the Southwest Conference. It's a big part of our history. And this Outback Bowl is so big for the Razorbacks because we had Chad Morris for 2 years who never won a Power 5 game, never won a conference game. We had swinging doors in the transfer portal. We had Brett Bielema trying to fleece us for as much money as he could in a buyout on his way, and then taking a volunteer job in the NFL so he doesn't get paid a salary so he can keep fleecing money off. I mean, it's been a really rough ride. And the fact that we're just not returning to bowl, and then we had a bowl last year canceled by COVID. The fact that we've returned to a bowl is really big to the players. It's big to the coaches, and it's huge for the fan base.
So then, being part of that fan base, how does this play out in terms of betting? Are you able to separate it? Because this game, Penn State, opened at -4, which was kind of a head scratcher, down to -2 or maybe -1.5, depending on where you're at. But you know the program better than anyone. Is that the right move, even with Treylon Burks opting out?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely the right move. It's a game that I made pick, and when I do Arkansas games, I try to be as contrarian as possible, right? My wallet is very important. I like to keep money in it. So I'm not going to get caught up in being rah as a fan. And so when I started thinking about, well, I make the game pick, why is this game 4? Lined at -4. And I immediately hit it. I didn't even think about it. I hit that. I hit the money line. I said, you know what? I'll come and think about it later because there are going to be opt-outs. Now, Treylon Burks opting out is a big deal. I think he's the reason why we've been able to succeed in passing downs. That's when your offense gets behind down and distance, say like a 3rd and 10 or a 4th and 5, you're in a passing down. And you can just look at Arkansas's team this year. KJ Jefferson has targeted Treylon 83 times. The next wide receiver, 33. So he doesn't look for anybody but Treylon Burks. And so I'm a little nervous about what is going to happen if Penn State puts us in passing downs. But the reason I'm betting on Arkansas in this game, and I would continue to bet them, is that we have a 4-headed running back attack with one of the best offensive lines in the country. And those 4 running backs were nicked up, injuries, turf toe, shoulders, all kinds of things. Now they get a whole month of rest. And if you look at Penn State, it's really an easy handicap. They lost PJ Mustipher, their defensive interior player, before the Illinois game. And what happened? Illinois rushed for over 300 yards, sent them to 9 overtimes. And if you go past that, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, they all had rushed for at least 140, had no issues running the ball whatsoever. And you're going to give Arkansas a month to get healthy and run in between the tackles. I think it's a really bad combination into effect. Like if you're still thinking about like not buying this line, Franklin's come out and said, we are not discussing opt-outs and we're not going to discuss who's not playing in this bowl until we get to the bowl site. The only offensive weapon that Penn State has is Jahan Dotson. So if they get to the bowl site and they're like, Dotson's going to go to the NFL, the line's going to swing to Arkansas -1. So you're not going to get opt-outs from Penn State. So it's a good time to buy Arkansas before that news comes out.
Yeah, sounds like amazing line value to jump on that now for sure. Now, bowl season is loaded with tons of opt-outs, as you just mentioned. It feels like the coaching changes have been next level this year. But what is the off-field move that's going to have the biggest effect on a game that hasn't been reflected in the spread enough?
I think there's depth. There's going to be depth issues at some of these programs that are going to bowls, and I think everybody should pay attention to that. There are a couple of running backs that have hit the portal. The one team that is affected the most by far is Hawaii. Siobhan Cordero has been their quarterback for a really long time. Day Hunter is their best player offensively. There's allegations against the head coach, Todd Graham, about verbal abuse. There are a lot of people that are unhappy with their offensive coordinator, which is Todd Graham's son. There's a lot of bad things going on, and it's not like they have home field advantage. If, I do my own home field advantage numbers, and if you can cover games at home, you get a bigger high home field advantage if you can beat odds makers, and that's just not Hawaii. They have they don't get any bump whatsoever for being at home in this game. Memphis has a freshman quarterback. They're going to absolutely throw bombs down the field, and Hawaii's not ready for that. So I think that's one place where the portal really is going to be interesting. As far as next year goes, Dylan Gabriel going to UCLA, everybody needs to kind of keep their eyes on that, because this is a kid at UCF he's got amazing skills, and we've all seen that. But his decision-making and throwing interceptions was really rough. Dorian Thompson-Robinson just posted the best year of his career because of their new quarterback coach, Gunderson. So I think Dylan Gabriel going to UCLA, they're going to be on my radar for 2022.
Okay. Well, in terms of opt-outs are probably more relevant coaching departure. Is there one that's not going to really matter to a team? Like they're going to be capable of playing well despite the perceived distractions?
Yeah, there are some coaches where head coaches have left, but it doesn't matter. Like Marcus Freeman going from defensive coordinator to head coach for Notre Dame, it just doesn't matter, right? And when you have, Arkansas obviously didn't lose Sam Pittman, but when you have a program where the coordinators are responsible for doing the X's and O's and responsible for drawing up the game plan and making the adjustments, they're not going to have any problems whatsoever. Now you get down to an LSU where they've lost every single assistant, right? I mean, they've kept one guy on. That's not good, because Brian Kelly's not going to be a part of this game plan. He's not going to be making decisions on what we should do after 3 series. And none of the guys he's hiring are going to be doing that. His primary thing to do right now is to recruit. So I think LSU is one you want to watch, because they don't know if they're going to burn the red shirt on that freshman. Could be a wide receiver running Wildcat the entire game. Lots of time to figure that out. It's a January 4th bowl game. But some of these places where the coaches have left and they've taken the assistants with them, you really have to keep your eyes on that, especially LSU.
Yeah. So Brian Kelly, the thing that stuck in my mind is his dance moves that's been going viral the past few days.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another discussion another time. Things get rolling this Friday.
This guy is not a fit in the SEC. This guy is not a fit in the SEC whatsoever. I think he's.
You don't think it's going to go well?
I don't think it's going to go well at all. I think he's a great coach, and I think he's a great recruiter, but he also allowed Tommy Rees to do all the offensive calling. He allowed Marcus Freeman to do all the defensive play calling. And if he's going to do that at LSU, that's fine. Let's see who he gets for his OC and his DC, and we'll reassess. But he's just not a fit for the SEC. It's just, and you know what? At Notre Dame, he was the first 2 years at Notre Dame, he had to bring his temper down. He was under fire. People don't remember this. Like, he was under fire for being so riled up and fired up and face turning purple and cussing. He wasn't allowed to cuss anymore. And so now he can be who he really is at LSU. And so I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how this team operates. So keep your eyes open at LSU.
One thing that was kind of interesting too was didn't appear that the Notre Dame players were really too upset that he was leaving, which I think is that's a thing,
and I think this goes back to like the Spencer Rattler thing, right? So when the players come to a team, they come because a coach made them and their parents feel welcome in their living room. And when Shane Beamer is out recruiting for OU, that meant a lot to a lot of the kids on the OU roster. And that's how, Rattler and Stogner, they're over at South Carolina now. And when you look at Notre Dame's roster, who is, I think, by 24/7 Sports, who's the second best recruiter in the nation, is Marcus Freeman. So those kids getting that guy, the defensive coordinator, get elevated to head coach. Yeah, we don't, coach, we don't need your text, and you don't need to come in at 7 a.m. and tell us you're gone. Just go. We got Marcus Freeman.
So true. So true. But things get rolling this Friday in terms of bowl season. We'll get back to the bowl talk. And trust me, I enjoyed that talk for sure, because I love the drama. As mentioned, I love the NBA drama. So the college football drama, here for all that as well. But we'll try to get back to the bowl season before I take you off on wild tangents all over the place here. But as mentioned, Friday, things get rolling. Our regular guest, Matt Russell, talked about the Friday games on Tuesday's show, and he was saying that he grabbed the favorites at -9. Now, they're up in the double digits. What's your take on either or both of the Bahamas Bowl and the Cure Bowl?
Yeah, I'll start with the Cure Bowl. I mean, I think the number is oddly priced really low, especially if Grayson McCall is playing. There isn't anything that I've seen that says that he's not playing in this game. It's a number I think should be 14. If you like SP Plus with Bill Connolly, he makes the game 20. So the number is priced like McCall is not going to play yet. There's no news out there or anything. So we'll see. I mean, they're number one in the nation in big play offense. And what that means is Coastal Carolina has generated more 20-yard passes and 12-yard runs per offensive attempts than anybody in the country. They're top 20 in success rate, 6th in finishing drives. And Northern Illinois is a bottom feeder when it comes to defense in the MAC. So you can guess that Coastal Carolina, no matter if Grayson McCall is not there, that Bryce Carpenter kid, he's been in that program for 4 years. He's run Jamie Chadwell's offense. I don't think it's that big of a drop from him. I think Grayson McCall is just excellent, right? I mean, he's pure excellence, but it's not like Bryce Carpenter is somebody that, we're just your typical second string. Value over replacement is actually kind of small here. And for Northern Illinois, they actually can expose what Coastal has the biggest problem with. And I've said this for 2 years. Coastal has a hard time defending teams that can run the ball. App State can run the ball, beat them this year. Teams that are heavy on the rush can beat Coastal. And Northern Illinois, I mean, their running attack right now, Javon Ducker, I mean, he's been a force. If they're able to stay in standard downs and methodically get down the field, they're going to get some points on the board. And that number is perfectly priced for that backdoor. That 10.5 is priced for that backdoor. So, for me, this is a game. I do like Coastal. I'll stick to my power rating unless we hear about Grayson McCall. And I'm going to stick to the over because I think NIU can move the ball on the ground. And there's no question that Coastal Carolina has just been a machine this year. Bahamas is a fun one. That's where we usually have 30-mile-an-hour winds, but I think we're down to about 15-mile-an-hour winds, which is a change for for this place. But for me, this is all Toledo. I caught it at 7 when it opened up. It's a number I make 12. I think it's going to take steam all the way up through kick. They covered every game on the road this season except for one. So the Rockets they're really comfortable away from home. And Taquan Finn, ever since he took over starting duties for this team, I think it was Game 7 against Central Michigan. They've just been dominating everyone. He is a real force to be reckoned with under center. Middle Tennessee is outside the top 100 defensively in stuff rate and line yards. So that's just something where Toledo is going to get 4 yards every time they attempt to run, no matter if it's, they're running zone read or wildcat or whatever they're going to do. And the offensive numbers have been bad for Middle Tennessee. They're 128th in standard down success rate. So again, like I said about Coastal, Toledo is going to get 4 to 5 yards on every first and second down. They're going to have really short third downs. So like I said, I would take Toledo. My number makes it 12. So I would stop buying once I got up around 11 and 11.5. Wind is in play. I think what's going to happen tomorrow, and this happens every year, is people freak out about the wind, and the total on the Bahamas Bowl always comes down. I've seen it come down 15 points one year, this is the bowl where the public gets in and then it comes on down. The key number you need to know in this range is 48. That's one of the biggest key numbers in totals. People get freaked out about this total with the wind and it gets down to 48. That's when I'm going to be firing on the over.
Wow. Okay. So Toledo and Coastal Carolina, that's where we're rolling. Okay. I like it. Saturday's card is loaded. And I don't want to ask you for too much, but I'm going to give you a dealer's choice here. What's your favorite bet that's on the board?
What's funny is I'm Friday, I'm on the favorites. Saturday, it's a little bit different up and down the board. I think Saturday has the potential to be a little crazy. For Fresno, you're going to want to wait to see what happens with Jake Haener. He went in the portal. He came out. He sent a video apology to the team. Don't know if he's going to play. UTEP, first time they've had a bowl since the Lyndon Johnson era in the 60s, is a big deal to them. App State has a secondary to shut down Bailey Zappi, although, there are these small rumors out there that with their offensive coordinator moving on, that maybe Bailey Zappi was going to hit the portal, but maybe he waits till Sunday to do that. So I kind of watch out there. But the one that I love is the Independence Bowl. I think UAB can absolutely keep this game close against BYU. If you're a trends guy, I'm not a trends guy, but I bring them up for bowls because there are certain teams that travel well. UAB's covered all but one game away from home, and BYU has only covered one game away from home. So there is definitely this level of comfort with these two teams about going on the road. That doesn't really make the bet for me. What makes the bet for me is that BYU has zero pass rush. Like, they're outside the top 100, and that's going to allow UAB's quarterback, Dylan Hopkins, who has been so good at throwing the deep pass, that Tyler Johnson's in the transfer portal, right? Backup quarterback for UAB, who's been there for years. He's now in the transfer portal because it's Hopkins' job. UAB is 13th in passing downs explosiveness, which means when they get behind schedule, they don't mind taking it deep. And I think this is a game is whoever possesses the ball last is going to end up being the winner. So if you're going to give me 6.5, 7 on UAB, I'm going to take it.
I like that. You don't have to talk me too much into taking the point. So I like that a lot for sure. So there's obviously a ton of games in the next few weeks, and many of our listeners might have to make some picks for pools and stuff like that, right? So What's your process for the lesser hyped games later in bowl season? Is it all early bets on openers, or are there many things that, you're still waiting on information to make? And what would that information be?
Right. And I would point everyone to go to Action Network. My bowl confidence piece came out just today, and it talks about that. Like, listen, I love this team, but I can't put that much confidence in it. It's like Pitt right now, right? Kenny Pickett and Pat Narduzzi have said, we'll make a decision the night before. Well, wait a minute now. I'm a gambler, right? You can't do that to me. So it's one of those things where, like, when you're in a bowl confidence pool, you want to bet on constants. You don't want to bet on variables. You don't need things at the very end to come back and bite you for your entire thing. So from a bowl confidence pool perspective, make your confidence low where you have key players like a Kenny Pickett, like Sam Howell coming out saying he's playing. I'm like, okay, well, my North Carolina confidence goes way up, right? So it's one of those kinds of things. And with injury too, you kind of have to wait on that. But as far as betting is concerned, it's the same thing. Those lines come out. And if it's a surefire bet, like I know everybody at Arkansas is going to play. And even if Treylon Burks opts out, it's only worth 0.5 point to me. That's, I know they're going to be healthy and hungry. And so that's a team that I fire on right away. But when you've got this whole Grayson McCall, might not be on the field, I can't bet Coastal Carolina until 90 minutes during pre-warmups to see if he's out there doing it. So that's where, your bet size and your timing, if you can get bets in within the first couple of days after the lines come out, they're going to move. These bowl games, there's a Syracuse West Virginia game a couple of years ago that moved like 15 points because of opt-outs. So it's one of those things where you need to learn how to be a day trader. I'm going to get this at this number. I know it's going to go this way. I'll make a decision beforehand if I'm going to get out. And I think really everybody needs to understand it's okay to get out. It's okay to create a window to get yourself out. Maybe you eat the juice and you pay $10, $100 if you're $1,000 gambler. Maybe you eat juice, but at the same time, if you make a window, that's how you maximize your profit. So I don't think it's a bad, bowl season is the best for doing that.
I love it. So as we like to say here, we are huge in Iowa. So I got to ask you a question here. Is there a better chance to win a tightly lined game, Iowa versus Kentucky or Iowa State versus Clemson? Each team seems to have an opponent with opposite care levels for sure, right?
Yeah, it's funny. My wife is from Iowa. My whole family is from Iowa. So whenever there's any Iowa negativity coming out of this room that I'm doing this in, I get in trouble. This Iowa offense. Listen,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
You can't put Iowa in a bowl game and them not be fired up. They have a fan base that travel is just crazy rabid. They are the most respectable fan base. I love them to death. The problem is the offense is dreadful this year. And I think everybody would acknowledge that. Tyler Linderbaum's going to play. That's a great thing. But when you lose Goodson, out of the backfield, that is a huge loss to that offense. One of the only places that they can score points. And if you look at how Iowa wins games, they need other teams to make mistakes. They need special teams mistakes. They need interceptions. They need fumbles. That's not going to work against Kentucky. They're a top 30 team in what I call havoc allowed. That's how much mistakes, can you play in their backfield? And the answer with Kentucky is no. And I think they have a top 30 special teams. You're just not going to get mistakes out of Kentucky. So Kentucky is definitely the game I'm playing there. Clemson, on the other hand, they've scored at least 30 points like 5 games in a row. They've all of a sudden have all the points in the world. I think an over is actually the best bet here because you're going to get the best that you can out of Iowa State. This is the last time that, these kids are going to be playing with each other. I'm surprised Matt Campbell is still around. But to me, this is a game, and I don't know how to say this nicely. Iowa State fans will hear this. They don't want to hear this, but their ceiling on recruiting is 3 stars every year. You don't get a Breece Hall down the pipe in the recruiting pipe. Like that doesn't happen all the time for Iowa State. And even though I love them running 2 tights and 3 tights, and I love their 3-3-5 scheme, and I think Matt Campbell's a great coach, there's just a huge talent gap with Clemson, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That Clemson defense is absolutely going to get after it. A lot of those kids are playing for an NFL paycheck, for NIL deals. I don't think there's just going to be, I know people want to bag on Clemson. I think it's baked into the number 2 that Clemson's not going to show up. I disagree here 100%. So I do like Clemson in this game. And it's just a massive difference in talent on the field. And, we'll see. Clemson scored a lot of points in the year.
Yeah, should be an interesting one for sure. And Clemson, the weird season for Dabo for sure. Yeah. But in terms of the New Year's 6, right? You never know how the matchups are really going to shake out, but this year's matchups seem pretty fun. I mean, as you mentioned, we're hoping that we'll see our guy Kenny Pickett play, but we'll find that out later. Right. Outside of the semifinals, though, which one of these have caught in your eye betting wise? Is it the Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl? Which one's kind of got your eyes here?
Yeah, the Sugar Bowl is absolutely going to be my favorite. There's no doubt, because usually what the Sugar Bowl is, and I mean, me being SEC all the way through, this is the game where the SEC sends a team that didn't win the conference and they're always depressed and they don't want to be there. And all of a sudden, the Big 12 shows up with some team and they pound their chest and like, we beat the SEC, right? So there's always that going on. But Ole Miss actually wants to be here. They were desperate to get to this Sugar Bowl. They wanted to be a part of the New Year's 6. Matt Corral is going to play this game. The best bet in this game by far is the over because of Gary Bohannon. I mean, he's been hurt with a hamstring for a large number of weeks. And all of a sudden you're going to get him to be a mobile quarterback. He makes better decisions than the Blake Shapen kid, the freshman. But this is where, it's okay that Jeff Lebby went to the offensive coordinator of Ole Miss, that he went to Oklahoma. This is Lane's offensive team. They give up a ton of yards on defense. They try to stiffen up in the red zone, but Lane Kiffin and Dave Aranda know each other. And, you deep dive a little bit about what Lane Kiffin did at Alabama against Dave Aranda at LSU. There's going to be points scored. And when you look at the Ole Miss defense, if Bohannon is completely healthy and mobile in that pocket, which he should be with a hamstring after a month, he's going to be mobile in the pocket. So that game to me is an over paradise and a game where I can live trade. I think I can get +7 on both sides during the game. So yeah, over and live trading in what should be a fantastic game with 2 motivated teams.
Love it. I love the live trading angle. I love that term. That just sounds so intriguing. So before we get to the college football semifinal breakdown, I just want to give a little reminder of the DRF Sports Sunday Scoop e-newsletter. If you haven't done so already, make sure you sign up for free at drf.com/sports to receive 2 free weekly newsletters delivered to your email inbox every Friday and Sunday. Both are packed with powerful betting angles you don't want to miss. Make sure you sign up for the Sunday Scoop e-newsletter and check out our guy Scott Grambling's weekly 6-pack in both the NFL and NCAA. Of course, Scott's also got you covered with his in-depth game previews. All that and more. drf.com/sports. We've got you covered no matter which way you want to discuss college betting, NFL betting, NBA betting, everything under the sun. DRF Sports, we got you covered. I'll get you out of here on this. The semifinals. Alabama has come off of 14 down to 13.5. Georgia is up to 8.5. How are you betting these big games on New Year's Eve?
Well, the one bet I've really made with my own money, plenty of it, is the under 58 on Alabama and Cincinnati. And I would play it again if I could get some 59s out there. 59 is a very key number. 55 is a very key number. So that's where you're going to see resistance. If it ever got down to 55, you're going to see it pop up. If you see it at 59, it's going to pop down. And, for me, I have the feeling what I said about Arkansas applies to Alabama. If you're going to give an SEC team their offensive line and their running backs that have been beat up for weeks, if you're going to give them a month to prepare, they're going to be animals when they come out of the gate. Mm-hmm. And when you look at a Cincinnati team, what is their biggest strength? It's 3 guys in the secondary that are going to play at the NFL level. And with John Mechie, one of the best wide receivers, having his ACL, he's out for this game for Alabama. I think what people don't realize is that while Devonta Smith was winning the Heisman and running wild like crazy, it's because John Mechie was setting blocks 20 yards down the field. He is a monster loss for Alabama. So what does that mean? That means Alabama is going to pull what they did against Ole Miss, where they just ran the ball. Brian Robinson 45 times, shut down Ole Miss, and Ole Miss never got on the board. I think this is the same formula. What you want to do is you want to run, avoid that Cincinnati secondary. You're going to have healthy running backs finally for Alabama after a month's rest. You're going to take advantage of a Cincinnati front seven that can't hang with the Alabama offensive line. You'll avoid that secondary. And then on the other side of the ball, I think once Saban gets a 17 points, he gets a 3-possession lead, he's just going to stick out his arm and play keep away. And I keep going back to the Notre Dame game in the semifinal last year. Everybody realized that the 2020 Alabama offense was the best in the nation, but Notre Dame covered. Why is that? Because Nick Saban made the conscious decision to run the ball constantly and keep a 3-possession lead. That's what's going to happen here. So for the point spread, 16 is probably a good number. But let's be honest, this is going to be a 19 to 22 point game with a backdoor chance for Cincinnati at the end. And so for me, it's an under. I don't know if I'm going to get involved on the side. Cotton Bowl is a little bit different. I haven't placed a penny on this because why did Georgia lose? Because the offensive line protected Bryce Young and Bryce Young attacked the middle of the field. Not one SEC team has been able to pass downfield. Fast forward to the Cotton Bowl here. It's not Michigan. It's not what they do. And they're not going to change their identity. They're going to try to run the ball with Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins. So what you have to do is handicap, can this offensive line push the Georgia defensive line around? To me, I've watched the game. I've gone back and watched Alabama, Georgia like twice. I'm still watching to see, can Jordan Davis be pushed around? Can Wyatt be pushed around? If they can't, Michigan could get blown out. And, that's their bread and butter. And if the bread and butter ain't going to work, there's no other answers. So I haven't laid a bet on this, but really the answer is Michigan's either going to win this game outright or they're going to get blown out. So it either works or it doesn't with that running game.
I like it. I think Michigan will have a tough time for sure. I just don't see it. I don't see it. It's like they're going up another level, trying to go at Georgia. And you mentioned, I know you're an SEC guy, so you know what I'm saying for sure. But for our listeners, we got to make sure that you guys check out Collin with his podcast partner Stuckey on the Big Bets on Campus on the Action Network podcast. Now, what's your bowl show schedule like coming up?
Oh, it's wild. We are recording 8 bowls tonight. We are recording 10 bowls on Sunday. I believe that every game is going to be covered. I believe we have 5 or 6 pods we're going to cut over the holidays. There's no college football games the day after Christmas. We'll be cutting a big swath of them then. So there's going to be 5 pods. The first one we got while you guys are listening to this, you can go check it out. Big Bets on Campus. We'll have all of our podcasts there, and then I think we're going to record one. We're doing 8 tonight, which leads us up to Christmas. And then we're going to record 10 that's right after Christmas. And then we'll have another one that'll have the college football playoff. So we'll be there for you for every game that you got.
That is amazing. He is at _Collin1 on Twitter and one of the most informed people in the business. Thank you for joining us here on the DRF Sports Podcast, Collin. Really appreciate it, my dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Collin for coming on the pod. And if you want to follow me online, you can do so on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander and on Twitter at Shell Alexander. Like and subscribe to the DRF Sports Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And for more from this brand new project from DRF Sports, we just got to make sure, if you're not familiar with the letters DRF, daily racing forum has been around for over 100 years, giving you all of the horse racing information, data, and analysis. But now we're taking over the entire sports world. So if you want all the coverage on every football game, as well as the NBA, MLB, and more, head to drf.com/sports for all of the details and insights, as the site has all the data on every game, including offensive and defensive stats, betting angles, line movements, key injuries, and more. The DRF data is what powers our power trends. So if you want to see which trends our analysts have selected, follow us on Instagram and on Twitter. If you want access to all of the raw data, go to drf.com/sports. That's where you get the usual game previews. And of course, we go in depth on this podcast. Basically, however you want your betting information, we've got you covered. That's all I got for now. But remember to tune into this DRF Sports podcast every Tuesday and Friday. And hey, sometimes if you're lucky, we sprinkle in a little extra episode here and there. But until next time, that's all I got for now. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the DRF Sports Podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show. For more sports betting advice, go to drf.com/sports and follow on Twitter at @DRF_sports.